Here comes Deaxz and EasyQuix.
Either that
Coming
or
at
you're
your fast
literally
with a podcast. Break it down, get it in your ears now fast. Quix, Deaxz, cast, pods.
Welcome everybody to episode 1 of 2 in the Basement, a Dead by Daylight podcast. My name's EasyQuix and I'm joined with Deaxz. How are you, dude?
How you going, Quixie? Good to see you again, mate. It's been a week. It has been a week. It is nice to catch up and have another chat. We actually haven't spoken much this week, so we are fresh on the vocals and ready to chat all things Dead by Daylight. Do you have an idea of what we're chatting about today?
So, in today's episode, we'll be discussing the new killer, the Trickster, and the all-kill chapter, including the new survivor, Yunjin Lee. We'll be going through the new shrine, which started a couple of days ago, on Wednesday the 7th till the 14th. So it goes for a week. We've got a few questions and answers to do, which we did post on Twitter, and the upcoming Trickster buffs, which will be coming out next week, potentially.
Yes, you did hear it first here, ladies and gentlemen. The Trickster has released, and within the week of the Trickster releasing, there are buffs that they have decided to bring out. So this might give you a little bit of insight onto just how strong this new killer is.
It's a very quick turnaround. The killer's only been out for a week and a half, and we're already getting buffs.
Yeah, it's a very, very strange time for the release and the power level of the killer, but we will definitely be able to get into that. I'll also touch on a little bit of the tournament results that we had previously spoken about last week, as it did wrap up and finish off. As Quixie mentioned, we do have the Q&A, and we have an in-depth look at the shrine. We've also found some pretty funny bugs that have happened during this week as well, and we'll give you all of our thoughts on Dead by Daylight for this week. So, do you want to kick it off, Quixie? Or maybe I should kick it off, actually. Maybe we'll touch on the tournament, and I'll just let everyone know how that ended up.
So how was the tournament, mate? How did you find it? How did your team go?
Look, overall, I really enjoyed playing competitive Dead by Daylight. It was a different experience, as you would know from watching the live broadcast. It's completely different to public matches. It's really, really interesting to just get out there and try your absolute hardest, get on the comms and play against, the best of the best killers, playing the best killers, Nurse, Spirit, Twins, that kind of thing. And I really enjoyed it, and my team really enjoyed it. We ended up coming third in the tournament, which I'm not mad about, because this team that we threw together was a first time team a week before the tournament. We scrimmed a couple of times. If you don't know what scrims are, it's just a bunch of people jumping in and basically emulating a tournament setting, playing really hard, like in competitive, a practice competitive game is essentially what that is. And yeah, we came third, so we're in the money, which is always good. A little bit of prize money coming our way for our efforts, but it was all about the experience for me. And overall, the tournament experience was really, really good. The casters, once again, I'll shout them out: Recover and Fanel Mark. They did excellent jobs. Absolutely love them both to bits. I know Quixie and I are big fans of theirs, both commentary wise and also their streams as well. So. If you haven't checked them out, you definitely should. But yeah, I was happy with it, Quix. I'm looking forward to potentially more DBD in the Oceanic community, whether that be me playing or casting. So I've actually got a little bit of news about that, but I'll touch back on that a bit later. Did you want to go over just exactly what happened this week with a new killer, the all-kill chapter, Trickster, Ji-Won Hack, sorry. Tell us all about him. I have barely played him, so the floor is yours, mate.
Yeah, I got a few games with him. His name's the Trickster, aka Ji-Won Hack. Thank
you for correcting that pronunciation of mine.
Yeah, so he starts off with 60 knives. It takes 8 knives to down a survivor. He's 110% movement speed, which is the same as Huntress and the Deathslinger. And had quite a few games with him. Pretty fun killer to play. Pretty fun killer, but I'd like to see some buffs for him, which they are announcing. They've already announced them, actually, which will be coming out next week, potentially.
Now, when you say fun, do you mean anti-fun and not fun at all? Because that's my experience with the killer.
Like funny in the way that he throws knives. That's what I'm saying.
So
like
what you're telling me
is a blast.
You're a psychopath and you like throwing knives at people.
Well, I like playing Huntress, mate. I like throwing shit. Back in the Black Ops days, throwing those tomahawks across maps.
Look, I didn't mind that either. So, look, to be fair, I'm happy that you've had a good time with him and you've actually enjoyed your time. I hated almost every minute of playing the Trickster. I have only played about 5 games, but that's 5 games too many in my eyes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of where his downfalls were from what you experienced, and I can maybe touch on my experiences as well?
Yeah, so I enjoy playing Trickster. He was a bit frustrating at times with what he can do. He struggles quite a bit. He struggles with map pressure. He's at 110% movement speed, so it takes him a bit of time to get around the map.
I definitely found that. The 110% movement speed, not only it wasn't only in the getting around the map, it was also just at a basic mind gameable loop that, like Huntress, she can actually kind of, if she lands a shot, you're injured, you're down. Like 1 health state, good night, you're on the floor, ready to be hooked. With Trickster, you can do a really, really good mind game. You can catch the survivor completely off guard, but if you're not within range enough to throw between 5 to 8 knives, depending on how injured they are, they could be fully healthy, and you have to throw 8 knives at them. You don't really get a result. Whereas if you were Huntress and you mind game them perfectly and you load up that hatchet, you hit them, they're down. That was what I found frustrating.
There's just not enough reward for landing your blades, I think, in my opinion. Because, as you said, when you play Huntress, if they vault the window, you're going to get a hit. With Trickster, you're going to have to throw eight individual knives to do the exact same thing.
And those knives have to hit too.
Yes.
They have to hit.
The spread is massive on Trickster. You don't know where your knives are going. You don't know where they're going. I found half the time I was missing them.
You can single click them and they'll be pretty accurate. If you hold it down, then they'll fly anywhere. But you can single click them, but when you single click them, you slow down every single time you throw a knife. So you start at 110% and you become slower and slower and slower to the point where you're almost you don't even feel like you're moving because the survivor's moving that much faster than you.
Yeah, so he's just he gets slowed down too much when he's pulling up his knives. Like the initial time you pull up your knife, you slow down. The more knives you throw, the even slower you get, and you just get too slow. Survivors cut corners, and then you can't really land any more blades. So you gotta break out of it, and that takes time.
One thing I can give him is it's not really, I guess, localized to Trickster himself, because whenever you kind of get in a dead zone with any killer, you're in a good spot. But I feel like Trickster definitely punishes dead zones very, very much so compared to a lot of other killers, because he can hit you with his weapon and he can actually transfer to throwing knives at you decently quickly. And if you are in a dead zone and you don't have a pallet, you don't have any line of sight break in that chase, you're in trouble there. But you can't have a killer that's pretty strong in dead zones and basically terrible in all other scenarios, and expect them to be played. I'm not going to lie to you, Quixie. I did see Trickster for majority of the release night, but I think I played for about 5 to 6 hours, and in the 3rd to 4th hour, 0 Tricksters. I saw back to the mainstay, Huntress, Spirit, Nurse, whatever, all the killers, Trickster was gone, out of the rotation, instantly. And that's never a good thing. When a new killer comes out, you want them being played. You want them played so much that they're annoying. That's annoying that you have to play that killer so much. But that was not the case.
Yeah, because imagine you're a dev, you come up with this cool killer, and then the first few days in, people stop playing new killer.
And he's cool. That's the thing. You're not wrong. He's really cool. His design the way, he's laughing, he's very vocal, he has cool animations, he spins
Laughs a
his
bit too
weapon
much.
cool. Like, he does laugh a bit too much, but his weapon animations are cool. But I remember when Deathslinger came out. Deathslinger came out around when I kind of was new to DBD, and I hated it because every single game with Deathslinger was Deathslinger for like 5 days, and I just wanted to play against I was rejoiceful when I played against a different killer because I was like, oh, good, it's not Deathslinger again. But Deathslinger's not even that good now. But he was strong enough then to where he was actually played, and he actually got a good bit of use. Even in this whole week since the Trickster has come out, I can count on both my hands the amount of times I've played against Trickster. It's no more than 10 times that I've gone against the Trickster, and it's really sad.
It took me 2 days to verse the Trickster. I think I versed him 5
2
times.
2 days.
And most of those games, the killer disconnected because he's just that frustrating to play.
Yep, definitely.
It's really kind of sad to see the new killer come out and people are disconnecting because they're just frustrated with how he plays.
So if you haven't played against him and you're unsure, Quixie did mention that he throws the knives, and basically you need 8 knives to hit you, to get an injured state or a down. What they call that is it's a laceration. It's a new keyword,
laceration
or term,
meter,
that they've used for the Trickster. So what happens is that laceration meter decays over time. So essentially, if you don't hit a survivor in I think it's a 15-second window.
Yeah, 15 seconds.
That starts ticking down, and you start you basically reverse time and essentially take one of those knives that you've thrown into the survivor and throw it away on the ground because it doesn't count anymore. And you have to hit them with another knife plus the knives you already had to. So that is a huge issue for him, especially when you have killers like Huntress and Deathslinger, the range killers that can catch you and hit you and you are injured or you are down. We keep touching on it, but that was one of his biggest weak points. That is one of his biggest weak points currently. The movement speed, the knives having that that laceration meter and decaying. And also, Quixie, I don't know if you've really had a chance to use his power, but would you even call it? I don't even know if I'd call it a power.
It's not really worth using. I used it a few times because it's there. You get a limited time to use it, so I was like, let's try it out.
Did you want to explain what it does?
Yeah, so pretty much it's his special attack, which you build up from throwing multiple blades into survivors, and pretty much you click control, your special attack ability, and you throw unlimited knives for a certain duration. And
I think it's 10 seconds that
10 seconds, is it? Yeah, and you're pretty slow as well. You're pretty slow when you do that. So most of the time, even if you go behind a rock, if they play it correctly, they use their power, you cannot get hit. It's kind of silly. And you only get like 10 seconds to use it. So if you don't use it, it goes back to 0.
And
so
you have fatigue.
Kind of silly. Yeah, and your fatigue, which you can't. I think it's a 10-second fatigue, so it's pretty huge without using your knives, which it is getting changed to 5 in the next buff.
Even any fatigue, even coming out of your main power, more than 1 or 2 seconds is still too much, because you're getting essentially punished for using your really strong power, which often, as Quixie said, if someone gets behind a rock, you can't use it. But a lot of the time, you get main event, which is the power. You throw heaps of knives at a survivor. You're chasing them. You down that survivor, and then you get your main event power. Where's the next survivor? They're not going to be right next to them.
There's
usually.
Nobody there.
They're probably going to be across the map.
Most of the time when that happens, like I have my main event ready, I just down the player, and there's nowhere else to use it on. So you just waste your power.
It doesn't stay up like Oni's power. Like when Oni gets his power, he keeps it until it's activated, so he can use it on activation. If you don't activate your power, the main event power with Trickster, as soon as you get it, it fades away, and you don't have the ability to activate it until you hit enough knives on the next person you're chasing.
Yes.
So it's maybe that could be one of the changes that they might look at as well. The activation,
activate whenever you want to. It's a simple change. It'd allow
it makes
people to actually get
sense.
some
It
use
makes
out of it.
sense.
Yeah, because like Oni is the same thing. You build up your power, and then you get to use it whenever you want to. You don't get forced to go into your power with Oni. So I think it's just common sense. Common sense changed personally.
Well, it stops that whole, oh, you've only got this many. I wonder how many knives he has that I can bait out all of his knives, and then he has to refill, and then he's just, a basic. I think people have been calling him D Pipster, is what they've been calling him.
Deep hipster.
But he's only got his weapon to use. Whereas, imagine if you're out there and all of a sudden you're caught in a dead zone, or you're in an area where the pallet's been used, and then bam, he activates his main event, and he gets unlimited knives for 10 seconds with, a little bit of accuracy. Accuracy thrown in there that it's not as accurate because the knives are coming out so quickly. But you're dead. That's deadly.
Yeah, it's very situational. Like in dead zones, you can get use out of it. But just say Shaq, for example, if they play Shaq correctly, the time it takes to actually get your power up, which is a good couple seconds, and then you start throwing your knives, they vote the winner and they're gone.
And we talked about it last week. Seconds are everything in Dead by Daylight. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, that can be the difference between a gen being completed. And
like you're better off just keep using your normal power. Don't worry about his special attack, because you're going to get more use out of it, more value.
And I have seen that a lot now with the better tricksters that I have played against, because I've been playing a lot of Survivor, trying to play against the trickster and see what it's like. I've noticed that a lot of the tricksters they'll use their basic attack, their M1 attack, and then they'll try and follow up with some knives once they force you into a different area. Or they'll just simply hit you with their basic attack twice. They will just they'll stick it out, they'll get their bloodlust, and they'll continue to chase you, which it defeats the purpose of any kill. Like literally any killer can do that, so it defeats the purpose of having a cool killer with a cool idea of having the knives and a new mechanic essentially in the game, the laceration meter. Like, we should be so excited, but here we are talking about it, and we're saying pretty much nothing but negative things. But on this podcast, we want to be honest. We don't want to sugarcoat things, and we give our opinions. So it doesn't mean that we're right. Quixie's had a better time than I've had. I'll straight out, flat out say that I did not enjoy my time playing as him, and even playing against him, the games were just super easy.
Yeah, like when you choose a killer, you want to use their power, right? Like you don't want to be stuck with a mouse one killer. That's just basic killer. Like
I'm a Wraith, mate. Why would I want to load into a Wraith game and never cloak?
You get to use your cloak though. You get to use your cloak.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Imagine if I load into a Wraith game and I uncloaked and I never cloaked again.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen, but maybe their button's broken. I don't know. But imagine that was my entire game and I'd never cloaked. There's no point. There's no point me playing the Wraith. I could play any killer and do that.
And Trix is 110% movement speed, so you're punishing yourself by
even
doing
slower,
that.
exactly.
He's even slower. So it gets punished more. Like usually 110% movement speed killers have a strong power. That's why they're slow. You got Huntress, you got Deathslinger, Nurse, Hag's even one of them as well.
Exactly.
Like they got strong powers, and Trix's power just isn't that strong.
But it's not that strong now. Do you want to talk about the buffs? Because I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit scared about the buffs, to be honest. I think it's so weird to say he's on such a low power level right now. I would actually rate him as the worst killer in the game. Even below, everyone seems to think that Clown's one of the worst killers. Against a good team, yes, but they can still do work. And people seem to put Legion down on the bottom of the totem pole as well. I'm not sure why. Legion can get around. Legion has fast, ways to get around the map, and
he's got mobility. You get to injure players. You get to chain injures. Like I think he's okay. Not the strongest killer, but I think he can hold his ground.
I agree, and it is interesting to know that some people say that Trix is actually better than Legion and better than Clown and stuff like that, but I don't agree with that.
I disagree with that.
I wholeheartedly agree. Think that Trickster is the worst killer in the game currently, but they are. I think that they normally do this when a new killer comes out and it's not very strong. they tend to have a look at it, but they usually take a little bit longer than usual.
Yeah, they announced changes within the week. The first week came out, and then they announced changes already.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll start, I guess, off with saying that one of the buffs that is coming that will be very welcomed is increased movement speed when throwing the knives. So this is not increasing his base movement speed, so he will still be 110% in movement speed. Which, mind you, if you guys don't know, survivors move at 100% movement speed, and killers move at 110% for the killers that we've named off already, or 115% movement speed. So this is why when you're in a chase and you run in a straight line, you will always catch up to a survivor because you are moving faster than them at a base speed. One of the things that is going to help him, though, is the fact that he started at 110%, and then as he threw knives, he got slower and slower and slower. What they're going to do is they're going to up his... they're going to decrease the amount of penalty that you get to that movement speed, and they're going to pretty much cap it to the point where, he only ever drops to the speed of a survivor, I'm pretty sure. I think he's going to sit around that 10% speed drop. So you're never going to have a survivor being able to run faster than you. Whereas previously, I think you used to run at 90. The lowest you could get was 96.3% speed. So you have to realize that as you're throwing knives, a survivor is actually gaining. Survivors actually moving faster.
Yeah,
they are actively getting away from you. And if you reach a corner and break line of sight, then Trix is just sitting there with his knives in his hand, going, "What am I doing?"
It takes time to actually pull up your knife and put it away. It takes time. So they just keep getting more and more distance, which is where he struggles quite a bit.
But they're actually changing that as well, aren't they, Quixie?
The wind-up time, yes. They're changing the wind-up time. I believe it's from 0.5 seconds to 0.35 seconds. It's not a huge change, but it is a buff. It is a buff, so we'll take it. We'll take it.
That's almost... you say that's not a big change, but that is almost... half the time. That's almost a 50% increase on how quick.
Yeah. I guess not a massive change, but I think it's a nice one. And also there is a downgrade to him. His wind down grace period, so the time that you put your knife away, is changing from 1 second to 1.25 seconds. So you won't really notice it a whole lot, but it is there.
Oh, okay. So they're actually kind of.
So they want you to keep your knives up. They don't want you to put it away. I think that's what they're doing.
So similar to the pyramid head.
Yeah, very similar.
The pyramid head change where you can't just go in and out of your power all the time.
Demogorgon a little bit as well with holding your mouse to it a little bit.
Okay, that's interesting to know that, because that's kind of like what they did with the Wraith buff, where they made you move faster, but then you get more of a base penalty to your uncloak.
He's a bit bugged right now, isn't he, Wraithy?
Oh, he is, but we will definitely get into the bugs that we've seen this week, because they are something else.
So he's also his knives gonna have removed spread, so pretty much like hip fire. It's gonna be a bit more accurate when you throw your knives, which is pretty helpful. And
it's gonna change it huge. The removing the spread is essentially removing the randomness that comes into throwing the knives, which they actively said when they released him that it was random. There was an RNG element to whether his knives would hit or not, no matter how good you were at throwing the knives.
Yeah, and
which is not, that's terrible for a person. That's like saying sometimes you'll throw a hatchet perfectly at a survivor and it'll miss.
Yeah, like Huntress is pretty accurate with your hatchets.
If you throw the hatchet right, you will hit the survivor. No questions asked. Unless they dead hard out of the way, of course. But
imagine there was a spread on Huntress, dude.
Imagine that. You just go, I line this perfectly up, and then you throw it, and it just deviates.
It just goes
and
to the left and just completely misses.
That's just ridiculous. So I'm glad they're doing that. They're also greatly decreasing the recoil. So it won't be a laser. I was a bit worried that they were going to take away recoil to, as a whole, which would basically mean that he was throwing lasers out of his hands because they essentially wouldn't move. The aim wouldn't move at all, and removing the spread, he would just be throwing almost completely straight with no recoil at all. But you will still have to, kind of fight the recoil a bit. You still can
put your mouse down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It won't be as
Make
bad
up for it.
as it was now. And then I think, Quixie, one of the biggest welcomed changes, I mean, these are all great, but one of the other ones is about the laceration timer.
Yeah, so they're increasing the initial laceration decay timer from 15 seconds to 20 seconds, which gives you a longer window to follow up with additional blades before the laceration meter decreases. So this is pretty huge. I'd like to be even more, to be honest, even just wipe it completely. Because when you play Trickster, you're kind of forced to commit to one chase. You can't really split your pressure because you throw knives here and there. 15 seconds later, they go back to 0. So you kind of get punished. When
you say wipe it completely, do you mean that a survivor always carries around that laceration meter?
Yep, that's what I think would be a nice change.
So essentially the same as a Ghostface 99ing a stalk.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I would like to see them trial that. That would be interesting.
It could be too strong, but even just make the decay timer even longer. Even 30 seconds. It'll just allow you to split your pressure, because at the moment, you kind of have to commit to one player to get value out of your knives.
Now, it is interesting that it's 5 seconds, because 5 seconds is starting to become a theme in this podcast, I think.
Yep.
Last podcast, we were talking about what happens in 5 seconds. We might have to change the name to 5 seconds in the basement if this keeps up with these changes. But I think that the 5 seconds is it's a good change. As you said, potentially a longer 25 to 30 seconds might be a little bit better. But the best thing about this is I believe these buffs are coming out straight into the game. There's not going to be a PTB for testing or anything. They're going to be essentially a hot fix. So we're going to get our hot little hands on it straight away and not have to mess around with the PTB or anything. And the best thing is if they can change them this quickly, then they can change them back this quickly as well. So
it's good to see him. It's good to see him making little changes here and there. They don't want to overbuff him because the people will complain. Just little buffs and just see how the killer plays.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely agree with the buffs, and it will. I'm definitely going to go back and try him. At this time, I have no interest in playing Trickster, but I definitely want to jump in there.
So they're also decreasing the post-main event cooldown from 10 seconds to 5 seconds, which I think is a good change, because pretty much once you use your main event, you have 10 seconds where you can't throw any knives, and you're in a little fatigue state. So they're cutting that in half, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I see what you mean now about that. I was thinking about the fatigue, but you were thinking about the actual cooldown time of when you can't
cooldown, not
throw knives. Yep. Yeah. I think does it force you to 0 when you use your main event, or you keep your knives?
You keep your knives.
Keep your knives. Yeah. Okay, that will help then, because if you're in a chase and you get a bunch of knives off, and then you still have knives left over, then you can at least start throwing those knives a lot quicker than now.
Yeah, definitely. 5 seconds, I think, is a good number.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is definitely good. So this is a welcome change. It is very, very strange for me, I guess, when something new comes out, to have an instant buff. I've been playing games for a long time. I'm no stranger to hotfixes and things like that. Usually they hotfix bugs and things. But seeing I'd call this a big change on a new killer. I wondered how this affects the developers. Quixie, what do you reckon? If you've been, as you said, you've been working on this you're a developer and you've been working on this killer for 2-3 months, and then you see this kind of reaction or this.
Yeah, but like you said, like you spend 3 months on the new killer. You want people to actually play him. Like, it's pretty sad that there's not too many killers actually playing the new killer. Like, most of the players would have played a couple games. They had their own thoughts on what they think about him, and then they just go back to their main killer.
Hopefully, he won't become one of those killers that's just swept to the side and no one thinks about going forward.
Yeah, because I enjoy playing him. He's got a pretty cool power. He throws knives. He's a pretty unique,
Definitely
looking
unique.
killer.
Definitely.
He's not very scary. But his backstory is pretty horrid. Did you have a read about that?
I didn't read a lot of his backstory, but I actually think that there's a lot of people that say he's not scary. I kind of think he is scary, because he has a really small terror radius, especially with monitor and abuse. I find any killer, whether they're, Deathsling is not that scary. He's just a cowboy with a gun, but him being able to sneak up on you, that has given me many a fright. And even with Trickster, he pops up on you, and all you hear is that little laugh.
Just hear the laughing,
and then all of a sudden you're being, abused with knives. It's gonna be interesting when he comes out with a stronger base, and a lot of this is base kit, which is great. They're not adjusting add-ons to be like, okay, if you use this add-on, it'll be better for you. No, it's base kit, which is the way a killer should be balanced, not around the add-ons. It should be based around their main power. And yeah, I'm excited. I am excited once again. This has gotten me excited because I was very, very, down and out about the new update. To be honest, I was looking forward to it a long time, and new content in a game where you only get new content every 2 or 3 months. It can be rough for the gamers out here that play it every day, especially streaming and trying to make content around it. It was a tough go for not only us, we're, as I said, the small fish in the pond, but the bigger people out there. It's and even just the gamers themselves. Looking forward to something new. I know if I looked forward to something new in a different game and it was subpar, I'd probably stop playing that game.
Yeah, exactly.
But
did you want to jump into the shrine?
We should talk about the Survivor as well, because we've just talked about
Survivor. True.
About the Trickster there. So,
did you want to go over that?
Yeah, I mean, did you play much? Have you played? I feel like you're playing a lot.
I didn't play a whole lot of Survivor. So, it's mainly Killer. Yeah.
I feel like I'm the resident Survivor somehow on this podcast. I'd never thought that would be the case, but I played the new Survivor just cosmetic wise and aesthetically. She's awesome. She looks really cool. She's got a cool outfit. Her prestige, I've pretty much got her prestige 3 now, so her prestige outfit looks really cool. Her sounds are very, very similar to Elodie in the way that her scream, you pretty much want to turn down your headset every time she jumps on a hook or alt tab out of the game if it's possible. I feel bad for console players. I don't know if there's a way for them to quickly exit out of the game and go back in. But her scream is almost worse than Elodie's, I would say. She's a very, very loud survivor, which is interesting for a female character, because as you would know, in the game, it's pretty much known that a lot of the female characters are quieter than the male characters. But she's up there on par with like a David or something like that, or a Jake. I feel like they're quite loud.
Yeah, definitely.
But she's been fun to use. Her main perk that I tried out was Smash Hit, which was stun the killer. We talked about this last week, but stunning the killer, and you get a 4-second sprint burst essentially away from the pallet. In the first night, I got this to work a lot of times, and I really enjoyed it. I sacrificed my borrowed time for it, and I actually ran Dead Hard and Smash Hit. So if I didn't get a pallet stun and I was in a chase, then I still had my Dead Hard available to use. But if I did get a pallet stun in the chase, it meant that I could try and walk around a little bit during that chase and get my exhaustion back, just in case I needed to use Dead Hard at some point, which I thought was quite a versatile and cool way to use the power. Although Quixie, using her power Smash Hit has been a little bit harder for me. Did you want to mention one of the bugs?
How many power stuns did you get? Because power stuns is bugged currently.
The first night, I got there was no problems. There was no issues at all. But for some reason, after that first night, that issue arose, and pallet stuns were essentially bugged, and still currently are bugged, aren't they?
Yeah, so pretty much if you swing at a pallet, you just don't get stunned, you get pushed back. It's really strange how it works. like in the animation, you're supposed to get stunned, you just get pushed back, and you don't get stunned, so you just kick the pallet straight away.
Yeah, and people might not think that's a big deal, but obviously if you've got a perk that's completely dedicated to stunning the killer and you're not getting the result out of that, that kind of ruins that for you. Also,
Yeah, like
the fact that the killer also recovers faster because they're only recovering from a missed weapon hit. They're not actually recovering from a stun, which means if you are at an unsafe pallet, it's already unsafe for you. If you don't get the stun, the killer recovers from their attack and they're on you again straight away.
yeah, he'll just walk around and just down you if you're already injured in one of those unsafe pallets.
Yep.
So pallet stuns are huge.
Exactly.
With that bugged right now, it does hurt as survivor.
But yeah, for some reason, the first night, it was not an issue. It was completely fine. But after that second night and throughout the week, I think maybe it was that killers didn't know about it, and then as killers have learnt that they just need to swing into every pallet. Pretty much, I'd say 90% of the time they didn't get stunned. They would still get stunned sometimes, but it's a cool perk regardless of that. It had its usages, and one perk that I actually was surprised that I was using, because I went in and got her Adept challenge, which took I think it took me 5 or 6 games that I managed to get it. But that perk, I think it's called Fast Track. Not the one that basically takes away your blood or skill checks. Your like survivor tracks. When you're running, I think that's called like self-preservation. But
I think that's right.
Yeah, Fast Track is the one where whenever someone gets hooked, it gives you up to 3 tokens if you've got the top perk of it available. And then when you hit a great skill check, it adds 1% onto the great skill check. I started using that when I wasn't even doing her Adept. I put that on instead of Borrowed Time for a regular build, and boy oh boy do those hooks do add up at the end of the game. At one stage, I think I had 1 generator left, and I had 23 tokens because I'd been in chase with the killer a lot.
Is that 23% just straight up on the gen if you hit a great skill check? Is that how it works?
That's exactly right. So if I had that gen pretty much 3/4 done, and I hit a great skill check, the great skill check adds on a slight percentage boost anyway. So I'd probably say that gen would be done from 3/4 done if I had a great skill check, and I had 22 tokens or whatever the maths is. Boom, that gen would be done.
That's just like a brand new part, almost 25%.
Yeah, and it has a cool
onto it.
It has a cool little sound that plays when you hit the great skill check, which is a new sound that's in the game, which is always cool when they add that stuff in. I really enjoyed it. I haven't been running it on my other characters yet because I don't have it unlocked. But it was actually surprising because I thought that perk was going to be a bit of a waste. But if you're playing solo queue or public matches, whether you're with a mate or by yourself, your teammates are probably going to go down. So it's quite helpful. It's only for gens as well. So if you're healing someone and you hit a great skill check, you don't have to worry that you're going to waste your tokens or anything. It just applies to the gens. So yeah, all in all, apart from the pallet bug, I thoroughly enjoyed going through her perks and trying them out for sure.
That's good, mate. So you got it to P3 already. That's a pretty quick turnaround, mate.
Yeah, look, she's almost P3 50,
Prestige 3.
so I definitely play a bit of Dead by Daylight. Look, the other thing we can talk about, if we're already talking about bugs, we may as well jump into some of the other bugs that we've experienced as well. Did you have any strange interactions with Trickster at all?
Not really. I know you got a few ideas with that one.
Yeah.
A few thoughts?
There was an interaction that I did see where basically there is a grab animation in the game that sometimes messes up, and the grab animation will happen, but you won't actually grab the survivor, and you'll kind of, because of the network connection to the server, it'll basically rob you of that grab. So there was an instance where if someone was unhooking and then it went for the grab, and they got the grab, and they actually the bug didn't happen where it doesn't, or the network latency didn't happen. They actually grabbed you. The survivor that went on your shoulder actually floated all the way up in the air, and looked like they were going to float out of the map.
That's a survivor, right? Wow.
Yeah, And then there was a couple of other ones where the trickster would just start floating in the air after doing a certain animation with a survivor and stuff like that. So it's it's definitely been funny to experience some of those rather than actual bugs that are hurting the game. One bug that actually did hurt the game as well as a pallet stun one was the Wraith uncloak bug, which hurt my soul as a Wraith player. That hurt my soul internally. Do you want to shed a bit of light on what that was, Quixie?
I played Wraith a couple of times. Didn't really notice it a whole lot. Is it when you come out of cloak, you're a bit slower? Is that?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
What happened is one of the devs actually on their stream said that they had added in the speed boost to the base kit, but they had basically they made when you uncloak and come out of your cloak as Wraith, you get a lunge boost and a mini decrease as you're coming out of your cloak. You slow down in speed a little bit, but then that makes up for it because you get a quite a long lunge out of your cloak. Now, normally that lunge starts about 0.2 seconds before your uncloak meter is fully finished. Getting it basically builds up from just before you're out of cloak, then your lunge kind of starts to activate. But unfortunately, in the coding, it seems like they have accidentally made it so about 0.2 seconds after the animation is finished, your big lunge starts. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but to someone that's played as many hours of Wraith as I have, it basically feels like you're standing still after you come out of your cloak for not half a second, but to me it felt like half a second. And it changes up your whole play because I know essentially I know when a survivor's standing in front of me, I know exactly if they're this distance away, I know I can hit them. If they're in front of a window, I know I'll make the hit. 95% of the time, I'll make the hit. A couple of times if they have spine chill or any other perks that help them get through windows faster, I might miss. But for the most part, I would say I know my stuff when it comes to Wraith, and I know I'm going to hit it. But this bug, it completely threw me. It made it feel like it made it feel like I was so slow coming out of my cloak.
So does the duration stay the same when you come out of cloak, like in the speed boost, or is that shorter?
So the duration is actually extended. They actually extended the duration, but what they did was they changed the activation of when that lunge would start. But they didn't make up for the speed change. So they basically, it was just a little error in coding, and it makes a difference. One of my other buds, 7, one of the other Wraith mains in the OCE region, he also noticed it as well, and it threw us, man. It was one of those things that you take for granted.
Especially if you're hours and hours like you have, if you're a Wraith main, it definitely puts you off a little bit.
Yeah, it's like imagine you're playing Demogorgon. I know you like the old Gordon, and all of a sudden they bring out an update, and his shred activation is 0.2 second different than it was before.
Yeah,
you would notice
it. You off. It put me off for sure.
And you can adjust to it, but you spend time adjusting to it, and then they change it back to what it's meant to be,
and you got to adjust
and
again.
Then you're going back. So
it's all a process.
Yeah, look, this all in all, for an update and for a new chapter, I would say success. In terms of the game didn't break. The game was still playable.
There was no desync, which is a positive.
Yep, exactly.
Because that last mid-chapter turned a lot of people off this game.
Some people left forever, I'd say. Never come back.
Yeah. So getting hits from which they shouldn't have got hit because the servers were just desynced.
Yeah, exactly right. So I think on the whole, especially seeing as they've announced these buffs, I think that they've done well. I think they've done... I mean, it shows in the numbers because I think Dead by Daylight has kept its numbers, player base wise. Certainly on Twitch, the numbers haven't dropped at all for viewing. The numbers in Steam that I've been checking, the community page, showing the amount of players online, that's been up higher than ever. So it just shows you that there's a lot of people that come out when the new content comes out, regardless of whether it's bad or good. And you got to remember that this is only our opinion, so there's probably someone out there, or probably some people out there that are absolutely frothing this this new update and think Trix is the best thing on the earth and want to play him 24/7.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I agree. It's a solid update. There wasn't too many game-breaking bugs, which I think is a positive patch for this game.
Yeah,
which makes it playable.
Exactly right. Exactly right. What we'll do then? Next, we've been. That was good. That was a solid chat about that. We, as I said, Quixie and I hadn't even spoken about the all kill update, so we were just getting each other's thoughts for the first time. So it's very nice to have fresh thoughts and kind of discuss it. So it was a lengthy conversation, but that was because we normally would talk about this kind of stuff, whether it be in each other's Twitch chats or whether we actually call each other up and have a conversation about it in Discord or something like that. So it was really good, and I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about it, because we tried to give as much insight as we possibly could. I know you wanted to jump into the shrine. I'm actually really excited about the shrine this week, because the shrine actually has my favourite perk in the entire game.
Me too, mate. Me too. Did we jump into the Survivor ones?
Yeah, short jump in, mate.
So we've got the new shrine update. It starts Wednesday the 7th, so a couple of days ago from when we're recording this, to the 14th. So it lasts for a week. So we've got Technician.
Yes, there it is. That's my favourite perk in the game.
Is that the one you're
No.
Okay.
No.
I was going to say. Technician.
It's your favourite perk because you always miss skill checks.
So I believe this is Feng Min's perk.
Yeah, that's right.
So if failing a skill check while repairing prevents the generator explosion, applies a default regression penalty, but it also applies an additional regression penalty of 3% at tier 3. And also reduces the distance at which repairing noises can be heard by 8 meters. So pretty much it's when... So repairing a generator makes the gen quieter, so it's a bit harder for the killer to hear the gen sounds, and if you do explode a gen, the killer doesn't see your notification, but it also regresses a bit more, 3% extra. So
yeah, so it's like a trade-off. You're trading off silent generator explosions for a little more regression on the gen, but the killer might not know you're on there, and you still might make that back and still end up doing the gen.
So would you recommend this perk?
For a new survivor, I definitely would. Technician is actually really, really good in the way of what we just said. It takes away that generator explosion. A lot of survivors won't, when they're new, they won't even know really the difference between a normal regression penalty and the added regression penalty. The only bad thing is at the tier 1 stage of the perk, it takes away 5%, which is pretty...
That's pretty huge. 5%.
Pretty significant. That's a fifth of Pop Goes the Weasel, because Pop Goes the Weasel is 25%. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you miss up 2 skill checks in a row, that's 10% plus the default regression. If you're halfway on a gen, you're back down to a quarter, pretty much, of a gen. So it can be pretty detrimental, but while you are learning, it's definitely good because it won't draw the killer over to you. The actual reducing the distance of the repairing noises is actually something that people probably don't think about a lot. If you think about something you mentioned before was the Tricksters and Deathslingers terror radius being, what was it? Did you say? 20,
16 meters with minus 1 abuse?
Yeah.
24 meters default.
So 24 meters default, but 16 meters with monitor. So if the killer has monitor and abuse and they're 16 meters away, they potentially, if the repairing noises are reduced by 8 meters, it's going to take them a further time to actually walk towards the generator to figure out whether it's being repaired or not. The noises that come out of your repairing, the little squeaks and sizzles that come out when you're repairing it, and that might then give you more time to get away because you hear their terror radius and you can run away. So depending on if they're a ranged killer, that kind of thing, So I think it's helpful. It's not a meta perk as you would call it. You don't see a full team running around with Technician, but definitely for a new player, it's a highly recommended perk, I would say.
Yeah, it's good because skill checks not the easiest thing to hit when you're brand new.
Yep.
So it just helps without the killer knowing that you missed the skill check.
And I just remembered, Quixie, I just remembered another bug that's in the game at the moment. For some reason, this was reminded me. So, you know the perk Breakdown, it's a Jeff perk.
So the hook breaks?
Yeah, so when you are saved off a hook and you have the perk Breakdown, it breaks that hook for 180 seconds, so 3 minutes. Currently in the game, if you run that perk, you actually break the hook forever. It doesn't come back.
Really?
It doesn't spawn back into the game for the rest of the game.
I did see somebody use it in one of my games. So
yeah, and that
it
hook
breaks
never
down
comes
forever.
back. At the moment,
Wow.
it's a bug. So, Quixie and I are probably going to play some Swift games after this, and you best believe we're going to try out running a full break. We're going to run a breakdown build and see how many hooks we can destroy forever in the game.
It's like the OG toolbox.
Yeah, exactly. You
Or
can destroy hooks.
Sabatua from Jake. It completely wipes out the hook, and then the killer can't hook you.
So to those that don't know, I didn't play DBD at this time. I don't think you might not have, Quixie, but
No, I started after this.
But previously, when DBD or Dead by Daylight was in its infancy, I think it was in the first 1 to 2 years. When you destroyed a hook with a toolbox or like Jake's perk Saboteur, it would destroy that hook for the entire game and it wouldn't come back. So you would have teams load in with the sole purpose of putting on as many charges as they could, putting on Saboteur, putting on a toolbox with sabotaging, and they would go around and they would basically destroy every hook on the map as best as they could. And that meant the killers literally could not hook you. So they would also probably, at that point, run unbreakable. And they would essentially just be able to get up off the ground and save each other and just make the killer's life an absolute misery. So at this point in time, you can run Breakdown. And essentially, so there's 4 survivors, so each survivor can get hooked twice. So what's that? 8 hooks that can be broken on the map in total. And you can imagine that if you all stick on one side of the map and break eight hooks, there is zero chance that the killer is going to be able to hook you. I'm still waiting for a full 4-man to come up against me that is running that. It's yet to happen. But I just remembered that and I thought it would be... Don't go out and do that, guys, because it's horrible, but we might try.
That's a pretty huge bug. If you've got teams knowing about this bug, then they can probably abuse it, and then you got nowhere to hook. They break all your hooks.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So hopefully this gets patched in the next patch, gets fixed.
You'd hope so, but we'll move on. And Quixie, this is it. This is the
this is my favorite perk in the game. Dead Hard is in the shrine this week.
Dead Hard.
David's teachable perk, which is a free character, so you can unlock it like free. So pretty much, when you're injured, you can dash forward by clicking E, and you cannot be damaged during the dash. It's pretty huge. It's a very meta perk. Most, probably 70%, 80% of players use this perk. It's very solid. You get exhausted for 40 seconds once you use it. But yeah, just the extra distance in chases is huge. I absolutely love this perk.
Now there are two main uses of the perk, Quixie. You've touched on one there, using it to gain extra distance to essentially another loop or a window or just to a pallet that might be nearby. But it can also help extend out a chase just in a dead zone. If the killer goes to attack you and you time it right, you can make them dodge an attack. Again, we talk about seconds in the game.
Yeah.
But those extra seconds can be the difference between your team finishing a generator or cleansing a totem or something like that. It can also be the difference between you getting into a better position to maybe juke the killer without a pallet or without a window. But as Quixie said, its main usage would be, you'll hear the term dead hard for distance. A lot of the time you will be running a loop and you can take one extra loop because you know that you can dead hard to the pallet or you know you can dead hard to the window. Whereas if you didn't have that perk, you would be dead in the water if you before that loop. So I'd run this on every single character that I play if I can. If I have it unlocked, I'm running it. I know that my chat hates me having it when they do perk redeems, so they always take it off me at any chance they can get. But yeah, it's so, people call it a crutch perk that you rely on it, like Decisive Strike used to be, but I don't see it as relying on it. There is an element of, I wouldn't say skill, but there is an element of knowledge of knowing when to use it and knowing the best time to use it. You can use it when you're against a wall, against a pallet, and if you use it and the killer swings, you won't get hit. Potentially, you can vault that wall, vault the window, or vault the pallet. It's just, for me, it's a no-brainer. It's a 100% get. If you've got the shards there and you don't want to level up, David, 100% get it. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'd recommend it as well. Just definitely grab it. Even just give it a shot. It's all about timing with this one. Most killers do predict it. Like, as a killer myself, you always predict Dead Hard. You just wait for it. It's all about timing with Dead Hard. Definitely recommend picking this one up.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Did you want me to jump into the killer ones?
Yeah, go for it.
So the first perk we have is Beast of Prey, which I believe, is that a Huntress?
Yes,
a Huntress perk. So this perk basically will give you the undetectable status when you reach tier 1 of Bloodlust. Now, this perk sounds bad. It is bad, but it's fun to use because it catches survivors off guard. So if you're a killer that's a chasing killer, so someone like, a Legion, even a Wraith in a chase, just a basic M1 killer that just has their power as maybe they've got fast movement, even a Trapper, for example, if you're not got traps and your power is running after someone, it can come quite in handy because depending on what loop you're at, if you chase someone for 15 seconds, you reach Bloodlust tier 1. So you start moving 5% faster than you normally would. So if you're 115%, you're moving 120%. So you're moving 20% faster than the survivor. Makes it quite easy to catch up. Bloodlust goes all the way up to tier 3, so it grants you an extra 5% each time. But once you get that tier 1, it becomes a mind game at that point, because undetectable means that there's no red stain. Is that right? There's no red glow?
Yeah, no red stain and no
heartbeat.
Radius.
And no terror radius.
Oh, heartbeat, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in a loop where the survivor can't see you, and you all of a sudden get Beast of Prey, they then have to try and make a decision. Hang on, has the killer left me? Does the killer have Tinkerer, which makes the killer get undetectable status when a generator is at 70%? Am I going crazy? And I can't hear the killer's terror radius? So it throws them into like this sense of, it's like a sensory deprivation thing. You're just relying so much on the red glow and the sound of the terror radius. All of a sudden, all of that disappears. And it can catch people off guard. I've had people, my chat once again, have asked me to use the, my chat have used me is what I've said there. That's not wrong. So Beast of Prey will activate, and chat loves it because it's a perk that barely anyone uses, but when it gets value, it's one of the funniest things. Have you ever had any like funny things with Beast of Prey, or have you ever used it before?
I've only used it like once ever, I think. Not a huge fan of it. I think I used it for the Huntress Adept.
Like I said, it's not great. It's not good, but it can catch people off guard.
Yeah, can be a fun perk if you can get to tier 1 and get the undetectable status effect. It can confuse some survivors and give you free hits.
Because it actually lasts for as long as Bloodlust is activated, so
yeah,
it doesn't just go away. But
so you can have Bloodlust 3 and still have it. You're flying around the map with your speed, and there's no red glow or terror radius.
And you can actually transfer Bloodlust from one survivor to another. So if you exit a chase and get into a chase with another survivor, you can continue that and then maybe catch someone else off guard with the undetectable status.
Yeah.
You don't know. So I think it's, as I said, it's a bit of a meme, but it is it is quite fun to use. Now I would normally speak about the other killer perk, but Quixie, I feel like you've had a little bit of fun with this next perk over time.
Honestly,
am I wrong?
not really.
No, I'm wrong. Once again, I'm wrong.
I don't really use this perk. It's Blood Warden. It's Freddy's perk. Freddy
I definitely
Krueger.
thought that you were a fan. I thought you were one of those people, people that just wait until the time is almost there and then hook someone and lock all the players in with Blood Warden.
I definitely want to give this one a shot though on some builds.
I'll let you talk about it. So what does it do for us?
So pretty much as soon as at least one extra gate is opened, Blood Warden activates. So you need to get a hook when the gate is open, and then it gets blocked for 60 seconds at tier 3.
That's a long time.
So
That's a whole minute.
It is a long time. So if you time it right, when the endgame collapse is going down, you can get everyone will die if you time it correctly, because they can't escape. They're just trapped at the exit gate, and you can see them there as well.
That sounds
You can see
brutal.
their aura. It is pretty brutal, and you combine this with Noed. No one escapes death. It's a pretty common duo with these two perks. You get one-shot downs with Hex Noed. So it's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal if you cop it.
Damn, I really thought I thought you'd run it quite a bit. That's why I was excited to talk about it, because I thought that maybe you'd run it.
No, I haven't really given it a shot, to be honest.
Oh, it's good. That's something new that we can give a shot. Blood Warden can be good because it catches survivors off guard, and as a fan of not 99ing the door like most other survivors, I like to open the doors straight away to give the survivors the best chance of running out if they're injured and the killer's right behind them. Blood Warden does catch me off guard sometimes.
Especially when you open the gates before pies, mate. That's when
exactly gates before
that's
pies.
When it hurts. That's when it hurts.
We all know the saying. It's a very, very common saying in the Dead by Daylight community. Gates before pies. But I still will to this day tell you, and I'm adamant that someone 99ing the door and not opening it fully. Basically, 99ing the door is opening it to 99% and not fully opening it to avoid the endgame collapse starting. Which will then, obviously, if the killer gets a hook, it will activate Blood Warden. Basically puts a timer on at the end of the game. I've died more times to someone not opening the door fully and 99ing it, and then the killer chasing me to that door and me having to open the door and then try and pull off some dead hard play or some kind of spin, than I have died to Blood Warden. So I will continue to open doors straight away, and I implore all the listeners out there to please open the doors straight away. Unless there is Noed and you know that there is Noed, open the doors. Just open the doors. Just remember gates before pies. That's all I have to say.
Gates before pies. That's the saying. So how did you come up with this saying, mate? What was the deal with it?
Gates before pies was just a bit of a joke. Basically, I was in Quixie's chat, and they were talking about gens before friends. So that's another.
Yes.
That actually is a common saying that you'll hear in Dead by Daylight. So basically, when you commit to a generator rather than saving one of your teammates, you'll hear gens before friends. And I was like, well, I'm going to come up with a smart thing for opening the gate. And I was like, well, gates before mates. That's a pretty standard thing. But I was like, you know what? Well, gates before pies, because you got to open the gate to get your pie. If you're at the MCG for the Melbourne listeners, the gates have got to open, and before you can go in and get your pie. So that was my thought process behind that. A little bit of a shout out to the Aussie listeners there. But Blood Warden, so Beast of Prey, I'll recap. Probably not. You probably don't want to get it because it's from Huntress. You can get it for free in her Blood Web. All of these perks, as we say, for free. They're just purchasable with iridescent shards. So this is in-game currency that you earn just from playing the game. Blood Warden, from a licensed killer, Freddy. I would say if you're a bit of a memester or like to try some funny endgame builds, probably worth buying, or worth getting.
Yep.
But it's not.
I'd say
it's nothing better.
I'd say give it a shot. You could have a bit of fun with it with Blood Warden.
If you've got an abundance of shards, then I would say if you've got a lot of shards, get every single thing on the shrine this week. It's not a bad shrine at all.
And especially because Freddy's a licensed character, you have to purchase him with real money.
Yeah.
And getting one of his perks to the shrine with in-game currency is always a benefit.
Yeah, exactly right.
Thing.
Exactly right. Any character, even non-licensed, even characters that you need to buy with shards, 9,000 shards is a lot of currency. If you can spend 2,000 shards to get one perk that you might like, I know I got Corrupt Intervention when it was in the shrine recently, but then I ended up purchasing Plague. But getting Corrupt for 2,000 shards rather than spending 9,000 on the character, even if all 3 perks come up in the shrine over time, you don't get to play that character, but you've actually spent less shards than you would to unlock that character and get their 3 teachable perks. Because you've not had to spend the blood points as well to level up that character. So yeah, I'd say jump in. They're a bit of fun, the shrine perks. And what do you reckon, Quixie? We'll finish up with a bit of a Q&A. We've got a couple of questions, not too many. We've been chatting here for over an hour now, so let's finish up with the Q&A questions and wrap it up.
Yes, we did a post over on Twitter asking for any questions for this week. We got 3 questions, I believe.
Yeah, we
So
might have got some other ones, but we only had 3 questions that we took down at the time. So we're happy to just go through these questions. But we do implore you guys, and please, if you do enjoy the podcast and do want to ask questions, we'll try and do a Q&A at the end of every podcast if you guys have some interesting questions. So at 2 in the basement, I believe it's a number 2, is it? And then in the basement is the Twitter.
I believe that's correct.
Probably gonna have to double check that, but
I believe yeah. Number 2. Number 2.
So at number 2, and then in the basement is the Twitter. Or if you're in any of our Discords, feel free to just post any questions there. But I'll go ahead and ask you. This is coming from at LoopDLoops, one of my regular viewers, and I think Quixie, he comes in and says hello to you as well. What is your... So I believe the question is worst and best killer. So I'm assuming they mean skill-wise?
Skill-wise, yes.
So Quixie, what's your worst and best killer, mate?
So this last patch has changed a little bit. Worst killer is probably Trickster.
Oh, you cop out. That's a cop out, mate.
Take Trickster out, I'd probably say Pig. Personally, okay. I don't really enjoy her. I don't think she has much of a power personally, because I like powers that you get to use them in chase.
Yep.
And Pig's just passive slowdown, which is good. It is good passive slowdown, but not a killer that I like to enjoy playing.
And your best killer is Freddy then, isn't it?
Freddy? Nah, Nurse 100%. A good Nurse just dominates.
But no, this is. Are we answering it worst and best killer in the game, or our own personal worst and best killer?
I don't know.
We can do both if you want.
We could do both.
So you think Pig's the worst, and then Nurse is the best?
Yes, that's what I would say.
Well, who do you think you play the best and play the worst then?
So I
know you don't play that much Nurse.
I'd say Oni, to be honest. I think I'm like a... I know you're not a fan of Oni, but I feel like whenever I play Oni, I always seem to do well, honestly. I just feel comfortable playing him and feel like I can play well with him.
That's because he's easy. That's no, I definitely have watched you play a lot of Oni, and you're definitely a solid Oni player, so I'd agree with that. What about your worst? What about your worst, mate?
Oh, me and my
still
worst?
Pig?
Probably still Pig, yes. Not a huge fan of Pig, to be honest. Sorry for all those Pig mains out there, but just not the killer for me.
Sorry, Ebony. Well, look, it might surprise you, but I think my best killer is someone by the name of Wraith, the Bing Bong Boy.
Wraithy, yep.
He would be my best killer. My most played, but also the one I feel the most solid at. The killer that I'm probably the worst with, I would probably say Trickster. No,
yeah.
remove Trickster out of that. Honestly, it's I don't know. It's weird because I haven't played the killer. I'd probably say Trapper or something, because
Trapper,
as in using their power effectively. I don't play. I haven't played a lot of Trapper, so I know where to trap and everything. But getting the traps down in the spots and maintaining gen pressure and chases and stuff, I just don't have a lot of practice at. So I've actually played a decent amount of pigs. So the pig mine games and stuff I do enjoy. But in my eyes, worse than best killer. Worst killer for me would be, I would say pig is up there with one of the worst killers. But for me, I would just in terms of people and their ability to play this killer, I would say plague. In terms of what I see, I know she's a really strong killer and I enjoy her. But a lot of time, most of the time when I go into Plague, they get absolutely rolled. So tier list wise, I believe she's up there. But from gameplay perspective, I think that she's one of the worst because people don't know how to play her effectively.
Yeah, it's all about with Plague. It's all about knowing when to grab your portals, pretty much. Yep. Your fountains, like we're knowing when and where to grab them. And
I'm gonna cop out and say that the two best killers in the game are Nia. No, are
Nia.
The two best killers in the game
and Claudette.
Yeah, self-care. No, the best killers would have to be tied between Nurse and Spirit for me.
Yeah, definitely.
I do think the Oni is up there against public, match teams that maybe don't know what they're doing and how to capitalize against him, but. Nurse and Spirit are almost tied for me. I actually think that Nurse is easier to play against Spirit because you can attempt to predict the Nurse and learn their behaviors, whereas Spirit just feels more like a coin toss. So either way, they're both strong for sure. But we kind of already touched on it. But another question here from at Ali Holly S. What's your top perk and your least favorite perk, Quixie?
Okay. Well, we said it before. For Survivor, for me personally, Dead Hard. It's just I'm such a good perk. You use it every time you get injured. You get to use it. I just think it's a great perk overall. You use it at least 4 or 5 times a game or something like that.
Yeah, depending on how many chases you get in, for sure.
Yeah.
What about killer wise?
And for killer, Corrupt Intervention. I think just for the early game, just blocking those 3 gens is huge.
Interesting.
It's honestly huge, just getting that early map pressure.
I like that.
How about yourself?
It's a nice pick. Mine would be Ruin. I think that's my top perk on Killer. Ruin. So regressing the generators. I like to play a range of killers that can apply a pretty good gen pressure. And if your Ruin Hex Totem doesn't get cleansed and you're able to push survivors off generators very consistently, it's huge. It's such a good perk. Survivor perk again, Dead Hard, easily one of my favorite perks. But I would say tying that almost would be it's not a perk. It's a combination of perks: self-care and botany knowledge.
Self-care gamer. He loves it.
I am a self-confessed self-care main, and I am known around the OCE community as a self-care main. But yeah, it's invaluable. When you have self-care and botany knowledge, you actually heal at 83% of the normal speed. When another survivor heals you, you're only healing 17% slower than what it would be with another survivor healing you. So it means you don't inconvenience another survivor and you can get back in the game and get back in the chase quite quickly. So they'd be, I guess, my top perks. What about your least favorite perks, Quixie? As in, I'd say... We can say least favorite perks to verse potentially, or least favorite perk to run.
Okay.
We can say both if you want.
To run, there's quite a few. There's a lot of perks that I dislike. Just got to choose one, I think. I had a couple down. Not a huge fan of that new perk, self-preservation.
Yeah,
I just don't think it's
not great, is it?
I just don't think it's a good perk personally.
Yep.
What
about No Mither?
No Mither. Combined with other perks, it's okay, I think.
Yep.
Combine that with Dead Hard, Iron Will, I think can be okay. But by itself, it's probably the worst perk in the game, I think. How about yourself for Survivor side?
Oh, look, Survivor side, I'd say my least favorite perk to run would be Decisive Strike.
Oh, now, yes. Now.
Just always has been.
Always.
Yeah. I don't rely on crutch perks dead hard at all. So I've never enjoyed running that perk. It's just
It's kind of like
never been...
can be a free escape sometimes with Decisive Strike.
I just don't want to rely on it. I never wanted to. I've never wanted to rely on it. It would definitely be my least favorite perk in the game, both killer and survivor wise.
Yeah. Also, what would be your most? I got my own question. What would be your most fun perk to run? Not necessarily good, but most fun.
The most fun perk to run. Or I would have to say, I think you'll maybe have the same answer, but it will be a combination of the Deception, quick and quiet, and head on perks.
Yes,
that kind of build for
that's
survivor.
a really fun build to run.
Any
I'd agree with
build
that.
where you can kind of troll the killer or something like that. Saboteur is a fun perk that I like to run. Going around saboing hooks, whether the killer is at them or not, just bullying and annoying the killer with notifications and things like that.
Yeah.
I think killer-wise, one of my favorite perks or top perks would be barbecue and chili, though. You can't go past that.
Yeah,
for blood points,
like
but
a
just
staple perk.
Invaluable knowledge of knowing where people are if they're across the map, that kind of thing.
It's one of those perks that you can get value on pretty much every killer, almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's never... depending on, maybe Midwich, sometimes you don't get a lot of barbecue value because it's such a small square map.
Or the game. The game's another one.
The game, I feel like you get more value off the game than you do off Midwich for sure.
Do you reckon?
Depending on where you hook. If you hook in the middle of the map on the game, you're probably not going to get much value. But if you hook in one of the corners, you get pretty decent value off it if they're in the other center of the map. Whereas on Midwich, if you hook anywhere on the map, it's at best it's going to show one survivor up, I'd say. But yeah, it's a fantastic perk. I'm gonna throw this on you before you throw it on me, just because I have no idea. But this again comes from Ali Holly S. And what killer would you like to see in the game? If you can think of one off the top of your head, potentially.
I did have a little document ready with some ideas.
Got a document ready.
A little bit of prep work. I'd say Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th would be a killer that I'd love to see in this game.
Okay, why is that?
Have you ever played Friday the 13th?
I didn't get to,
on PC?
Unfortunately. I did not get to.
I've
watched a lot of it.
I played him quite a bit in the Friday the 13th game. He's a really fun killer. He's got some very cool abilities. I'd like to see him in the game.
Any particular ability that you think would be cool for the game, or maybe he's teleporting, something like? I know he can teleport.
He's kind of like Trapper, in aesthetics, but because
he wears a mask.
Yeah. In Friday the 13th, he can teleport and he can phase similar to Spirit.
Can he teleport in in the movies and stuff, or is that just a game thing?
Honestly, it's not too sure, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. Who would you like to see in this game?
Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit because this is actually something I read on Steam the other day. I read a person that had come up with the idea of a Lara Croft 25th anniversary. They've just added her into Fortnite, a couple of Lara Croft skins for the 25th anniversary, and they'd come up with an idea that maybe she's not so much horror, but adding her as a survivor, and I think it's one of the sun god things from the game as the killer. Now, I don't know anything really about the killer, but one of the really cool ideas that the person had was actual bonus effects that happened as a base kit when you hit someone with your M1, like your basic attack. So it was things like obviously hemorrhaged or sloppy butcher effect on the survivor, but it was also other things like temporary blindness, like the killer receives when you blind them with a flashlight, or excessive bleeding over time, that if you as in adding a mend essentially. But it was just cool to see them have an idea about an M1 just becoming more than an M1, and actually not having to put add-ons for that as a base kit. I thought that was a really cool idea because it would be something interesting that obviously they'd have to balance, but it would be interesting to see something like that come about.
Yeah, sounds pretty cool. I think it'd suit the game, honestly. Like Tomb Raider, I think like the aesthetics and stuff would suit pretty well.
I'll pull the document up. I've got it right here actually, just so I can give you an idea. This whole idea was really really cool. I really really liked it. So with the melee, it was the killer was called Queen Himoko. So she's like the Sun Queen. That's what she's called in the game. So the melee was punching a survivor with a fire fist, and that gives the survivor small blisters, which makes them scream for 5 seconds after hitting them, revealing their aura to you for 4 seconds, as well as
That's
making
kinda
them
cool.
lose 1 health state. So I thought that was kind of cool with an added effect.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't mind that. Even like as an add-on or something, they could do that.
yeah, exactly. And then her Mori was sucking the soul out of survivor, which would look amazing.
Yeah.
But the perks were actually really cool. So one of the perks was called peer pressure. So survivors vaulting the same pallet 4, 3, and 2 times will cause the pallet to break. So the numbers are actually individual to each survivor.
I think that's a cool perk, honestly.
So it could be balanced differently. Maybe I'd say 5, 4, and 3. Because 2 times is a bit stiff if you jump over a pallet twice and it breaks.
Definitely.
But I thought that was really cool. I was like, that would be awesome to see because it stops survivors abusing like a god pallet or something like that. If all of a sudden the killer's running that perk and it breaks, that catches the survivor completely off guard. And as a killer, you know how many times they vaulted, so you can prepare and go into an M1 right as the pallet breaks. The other one was sacrificial belief. So for every pallet you break, you gain 2 tokens. Your next vault animation will be increased by percentage amount of speed and consume 1 token. So kind of like the vault build for killer. So bamboozle gives you a faster vault through a window and blocks the window. This would essentially be the same as when a survivor has spine chill or resilience when they're injured. So giving the killer a chance to get through the window faster, catching survivors off guard once again. What do you think? I think that's pretty cool as well.
I think that's pretty cool, personally. I love the perk one, the palette idea. I think that's really cool. Like the past killer perks have been, the new ones have been like pretty average. I think this would be pretty nice to see. Like, just say Shack Pallet, for example. I don't know if you get much use out of it because you kind of have to break the pallet, but you could force them to vault over it multiple times and just break it.
Yeah, exactly. The last one I'll mention as well was cursed belongings. So survivors that are breaking a totem or searching through a chest suffer from the exposed status and have their location revealed for 4 seconds, which I think would be pretty interesting because that adds a trade-off for another aura revealing perk with a totem, but it also adds a trade-off for going through a chest looking for a key or something like that. Similar to Iron Maiden.
It's pretty brutal. Like you're trying to get some loot, and then next minute the killer comes up from nowhere, and then one shot down. I
thought they were pretty cool. It's like, obviously that's not my idea, so it's a little bit cheating the question, but I didn't really have any ideas, and this is a killer that I'd like to see in the game, so essentially I'm answering the question. One thing we kind of forgot to do today is talk about the how the killer perks have affected the game. We did talk about the killer, but we didn't talk about the killer perks himself and if they've had any impact on the meta or anything like that. What we might do is when the buffs come out, we will revisit Trickster again, and then maybe we'll talk about the perks at that point. And maybe they've come more into the meta, or there's some changes that have happened and they've become stronger or worse, and we'll be able to go over that. So, as you guys know, we were going to try and have a guest on this week, but we weren't able to line that up. So that's something that we're going to try. Quixie, I'd say, try to line up for next week.
Yeah, we'll try and get it organised, mate, and get somebody on.
Yeah, exactly right. So, at the moment, that is all we have to offer you for Dead by Daylight this week. Is there any other further thoughts that you had? Anything?
I think
anything happened to you this
covered
week?
Everything we want to talk about.
Anything personally, stream-wise, anything like that for you, Quixie?
I think we've covered everything, mate.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Well, I am super happy to be here again and hang out with you, dude, and have a good chat. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. This has been Two in the Basement. I've been Deaxz.
I've been EasyQuix.
And we'll see you all next time in the fog.
Catch us all next week.